Okay, good evening. Thank you all so much for attending tonight. For those of us joining us online and in the room, our presentation will be starting in about 5 minutes. If you are here in the room, we do ask you to find your seats within the next 5 minutes. And for those of you online, we will be starting in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, good evening. The time is now 5:50 p.m., so we will be getting started. Today we will be going through a brief presentation, and following our presentation, we will have a 25-minute Q&A session. We do ask that if you do have a question or a comment, that you line up against this wall, and for our live stream, do speak into the podium here. Following the Q&A session, there will be time to view and stroll the boards surrounding the room. Thank you so much for your attendance today, and for those online, thank you for your attention. We appreciate you being here today. I'm going to turn it over to Jason Garza from our project team to begin our presentation. If you all wouldn't mind taking your seats as soon as possible.
There we go. All right. Can everybody hear me okay? No? How about now? All right. They told me to hold the microphone 8 inches away, and they were wrong. All right. I'm Jason Garza. I'm the MDOT Metro Deputy Region Engineer. And I'm going to be going through some slides tonight to give an update on where we're at with this project, our paths forward, and some of the things that some of the activities we did during the pause. Okay, so the agenda tonight, like I said, we're going to give a project update in the paths forward. We're going to talk to our partners from the various partnerships on this project. I'll go through the schedule and the next steps, and then we'll have a question and answer session, which is going to be at this podium near the end of the presentation. Just a brief summary of that. We are streaming online, so if you do have a question, we're going to ask you to come up to the podium so that people online can hear as well, and get you on the video too. So. Okay, so project update. So during the summer, executive leadership at MDOT placed a pause on this project, and we had a pause on this project for 3 reasons. One was the public consternation, a lot of community concern about the project as it was packaged, the amount of impact and disruptiveness that was going to create for the downtown and for the residents. Rising costs was another reason. At one time, this project was estimated to be around $350 to $360 million. That had really snowballed to be around $520 million. So to give you an idea, perspective-wise, so again, I'm the Metro Region Deputy, and I cover 3 counties, Oakland, Macomb, and Wayne. $520 million is 2.5 times our yearly budget for roads and bridges across all 3 of those counties. So that's a very big increase. That's a lot of money for us. And then the third is basically just, we have one shot at this, right? Whatever we build is going to be out there for 40, 50, 60 years. We need to make sure that we're getting this as right as we possibly can. So during this pause, we've taken a step back. We've looked at all of the community input that we had received to date. We basically reached out further. We started to assess a path forward and looking at where our pinch points were, where the issues were, and what we could do to alleviate those issues. And so we started exploring the various steps that it would take to kind of start working through that issue. One of the other things that we did during this pause was starting to strengthen our partnerships with locals. So this project is very unique for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that this isn't just a freeway project, this isn't just a boulevard project. There's a lot of community impacts to this as well. And so during this pause, we kind of re-engaged with the City of Detroit, the Downtown Detroit Partnership, and the Kresge Foundation. So John Sevils is here from the City of Detroit, and he's going to come up and speak and say a few words, or from where he's sitting. I don't know if that microphone works.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm John Sevils. I'm with the City of Detroit's Planning and Development Department. Good to see you all after such a long period of time. I just wanted to give a brief update as to where the city is. When MDOT went on pause to evaluate for cost and engagement and other factors regarding the overall project, the City of Detroit, in its effort for zoning and land use in support of the 375 project, also went on pause. What that is allowing us to do is just to give time and space for us to correct where we need to correct on the overall project, but also give time just to evaluate what adjustments that we may need to make as we go with the path forward. So as the project stands now, as I mentioned, we're on pause. We are looking for a few things, that being, say, an updated marketing report coming out later in the new year, and also just an update from FHWA that can allow us to continue forward in relation to the project. We do remain committed to the project and in support of MDOT and the overall effort, and along with our partners as well, as we've sort of been through this for quite some time. So I look forward to engaging with you more so in the new year, and we just welcome any comment, and I can be available for any questions that you may have later as well.
All right, thank you, John. I'm going to call up Eric Larson from Downtown Detroit Partnership.
Thank you, Jason. So just real quick, and I know we want to get to the entire presentation, but Eric Larson, Downtown Detroit Partnership. I think the most important thing for us to recognize from the partnership's perspective is the pause really allowed us to strengthen the foundation of collaboration, and that's what the community's been asking for. It also has allowed us to take a moment to continue to try and rebuild and build additional trust, but it also has allowed us to really rethink the way major infrastructure projects start to think about the way communities' communities' needs and communities' wants get built into that process up front. And so our commitment from the Downtown Detroit Partnership is to continue to work to ensure the community's input, the community's engagement, and that we continue to look at a project that ultimately reflects what the community wants, while recognizing the responsibility that MDOT has in maintaining not only safe but current levels of infrastructure. So we're very supportive, obviously, of this pause. We're very supportive of the work and the progress that has taken place during the pause, and we also are very supportive of where we seem to be headed, especially with the community's input as we move forward out of this pause. So Jason, thank you again for the partnership. Thank you for taking the time to really continue to think this through.
All right, thank you, Eric. And next we have Adina Hill.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adina Hill. I'm the new kid on the block, as I like to say. I'm with the Kresge Foundation, and I manage our engagement with the I-375 project. In my day-to-day job, I lead our efforts around housing and economic mobility. I'm a daughter of Detroit. I've previously worked with the city of Detroit before coming to the foundation. And really, I'm here to emphasize not only our commitment to the work with 375, but as a foundation, our commitment is to advancing equity in American cities. This is our hometown, so even more so in the city in which we reside. You guys may have heard about our recent announcement to move our headquarters back to Detroit, showing our deep commitment to neighborhoods, to the city. And what you'll see in terms of our involvement in this project is continuing to make sure that equity is at the forefront of everything that we do moving forward. Our interest is making sure that the process is community-driven and that the recommendations and strategies that are lifted up, that'll appear in the final reports, the framework, will represent not only just what community wants, acknowledges the history of this place, but also provides a thriving future and vision for Detroit. So to date, we've been engaged in the partnership by funding various technical assistance to add to the project. We've provided mobility equity training for our public partners to ensure that they keep equity at the center of the design and the work. We funded the peer review to ensure that there were alternatives that were presented. We've convened roundtables of civic leaders that are not just in the project area, but have equity a part of their mission to serve the greater Detroit area. So folks that have a deep dedication and want to see that this project represents everything that it can be for all of us here. The other thing that you'll see from us in the future is continued investment. So a lot of great recommendations and ideas have already been provided, placekeeping, placemaking have come up very heavily. How do we recognize the history of this place? So from Kresge's vantage point, you'll see more commitment from us and new investments being made in community projects. You guys may be aware of the Bailey Park project that provides some connection to and display of history related to this project area. But you'll see more projects like that are community-led being supported by Kresge. We're bringing other funders to the table. We've had conversation with our local funding partners about the importance of this project. We've also talked to economic development partners and bringing them up to speed with what the community has already recommended. So our hope is that we'll continue to engage with all of you, residents, descendants of Black Bottom and Paradise Valley, so that we can get some remarkable results, some outcomes that we're all anticipating with this project, and create a vision that will outlast, so more than just a road. And that's our hope with our support for the project and our ongoing commitment to the partnership. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So one of the terms that gets used a lot on this project is the term framework. So the framework consists of three things: zoning and land use, community enhancements, and aesthetic design guidelines. So when we talk about the zoning and land use, this is basically referring to the excess right-of-way or real estate that would be created by building the at-grade boulevard and having that excess land from MDOT's right-of-way. So the city's function here is to do a deep dive into what that land would specifically be used for. Community enhancements, I know a lot of people on the project team know that this is one of my pet peeves. Community enhancements is an incredibly vague term. I could ask each and every one of you in this room what that means, and you would all give me a different answer. Community enhancements is a very broad term that kind of encapsulates a lot of different things. Affordable housing, small business incubation, small business opportunities during construction, all of those things kind of encapsulate community enhancements. And then the third is the aesthetic design guidelines. This is basically something that gets created during this project that helps to govern what we use for streetscape type elements. So when I say streetscape type elements, we're talking about benches, brick pavers, colored stamped concrete, light posts, things like that of an aesthetic nature. So this helps kind of set this project apart, that's going to use those elements. And then all of that feeds into informing the design and construction. So one of the things that we've done during this pause is kind of assess, like I said earlier, where the pinch points are, what are some of the things that we can do differently here to build this project. So on the left, you see the storm sewer south of Jefferson. This is the early stormwater work that we actually started about a month ago. And the reason being is that it does two things. One, it provides independent utility. No matter how 375 shakes out, this is a benefit. The other thing it does is provide environmental cleanliness. It puts us more in line with EPA and clean water guidelines. And I'll get to that here in a minute on more detail on what that means. The new 375 Street Jefferson Avenue to Gratiot Avenue, this would basically be the Jefferson portion of the project and then the boulevard up to just south of Gratiot. So that would be built with this project, and we would be targeting tentatively 2027 and 2028. On the right, you see the I-375 interchange in Gratiot Avenue. That would be done at a later date. So we're essentially taking a phased approach to this. Started the stormwater, the middle phase, we would be starting in a year or two tentatively, and then the future interchange in Gratiot would be a later date. Now, all of this is pending Federal Highway Administration approval. And I'll get to why that is here in a few slides, but in the end, we have to make sure that we can prove to them that this project is still safe for motorists. So when I talk about the stormwater outfall, This is the work south of Jefferson, and I wanted to show this graphic so it gives everybody an idea of specifically where we're talking. So this is along Schweizer Place, and it goes from just south of Woodbridge out to the Detroit River to Outlet. So this is a large concrete precast box culvert that is going in now, and will be all buttoned up and restored in time for the Grand Prix next year. So several decades ago, a lot of large cities and small cities, they used to do what was called combined sewer overflow. So instead of putting in a sanitary sewer pipe and a storm pipe, the idea was that you would save money, you put in one pipe, and that pipe would service the toilets, the showers, and any rainwater that would be over a certain intensity, so larger storms. So this graphic shows just that. So on the left is dry weather. Everything's working well, right? You've got the one pipe and all the sewage is going to the water treatment plant. There's no rainwater to worry about. On the graphic to the right, this is what happens when you get a certain storm that overflows and overwhelms that pipe. So it overwhelms that regulator. So you have all of that water mixing. Some of it goes to the wastewater treatment plant, some of it discharges to the river. Obviously, we all know that that's not a sound environmental solution. So with this project, we'll be separating separating that pipe. So in this graphic, you see sink water, shower water, toilet water, etc. That all goes to the wastewater treatment plant. And storm sewer runoff has its own dedicated storm sewer pipe outlet to the Detroit River. So two things. One, the wastewater treatment plant doesn't have to treat all of this additional stormwater, so that's less load on the wastewater treatment plant. The other thing is that before the water discharges to the Detroit River, it would go through a series of what we call hydrodynamic separators. So basically separating silts, grime, oil, gas, anything that ends up on our roadways that you don't want in the river. And then we will have an annual maintenance program where we have to suck those out. This isn't the first time these have been used. These are in other parts of the state, other parts of the region, so this isn't a new technology, but it'll be something that we'll have to add on to our maintenance program. So if you're like me, all those words are a lot and you'd rather see a graphic. I'm more of a graphic guy, so this kind of shows what that phasing looks like. I think I have a laser, I do. So down here, this is all very similar to what we had previous with the at-grade boulevard, the East Road, but when you get up to the Macomb/Clinton Street area, that's where you start transitioning to the freeway. So I'm going to do a zoom in so that you can see that a little clearer. So this is basically everything south of Gratiot and then extends to the interchange. So you can see kind of that blue-purple line. That's the transition from the street level at-grade boulevard to the freeway. So when you're sitting at the signal at Macomb, and if you're going northbound, you're going to go through that signal, and then you start on a descent downhill to go under the Gratiot Bridge. So in this plan, the Gratiot Bridge doesn't get replaced with this phase. And then you would continue on, and then the interchange configuration, like we wouldn't be working on that wouldn't be replaced right now. Similarly for southbound, but a different story. So when you're coming southbound, we still have the northbound to southbound 375 ramp. You have the southbound traffic. All of that goes under the Gratiot Bridge, and once you go under that bridge, then you start on the ascent, and you meet at Grade Boulevard at about Macomb Street. So Gratiot stays in its current configuration. The interchange stays in its current configuration. The only caveat to this is the Gratiot over to Quinder Cut. That bridge was built in 1929. It is in very, very poor shape. So we will be replacing that as a part of this project as well. So a little bit more removed from all the activity that's taking place south of Gratiot, but still very important. So this gives a little bit better or more of a realistic look of what this at-grade street level looks like. So this is the view looking north from Lafayette. So you can see the parking deck to the left, and then you see the boulevard, and then that crisscross hatched area would be part of the marketable, developable property. And then on the right, you see the East Road. That's part of this project as well, which is more or less sitting on northbound Chrysler Drive. So if that gives you kind of an idea of how we are here spatially. As far as the interchange goes, just prior to the pause, we were very deep into modeling the interchange. So we were looking at, I'll say, existing traffic volumes, what they were pre-pandemic, and putting a growth rate on them. So we're looking at real traffic numbers and starting to determine, okay, we heard a lot from the community that the diverging diamond interchange was not people's favorite. So what we said was, well, let's take a look at these traffic volumes. Let's run this modeling again. Let's see if we can somehow determine if there's 1, 2 alternatives to that diverging diamond interchange. Something that fits the urban fabric a little bit better than a large DDI interchange. Now, a DDI has a lot of pros, but it has a lot of cons, right? So when we went through this modeling effort, we determined that there was 2, possibly 3 alternatives to that diverging diamond that would work for the traffic volumes that we are experiencing, or I should say, with projected growth. Okay, so we're looking at 25 years in the future. What does that growth look like? Can it handle that? But still being sensitive to how big we build this, right? So the saying that we've been using is, you don't design a church for Easter Sunday, right? So we don't want to design this so that it can handle 3 times the normal traffic, because then for lack of a better example, our favorite grocery store, unless it's Christmas time, most of that parking lot's empty, right? So the same idea here, we want to make sure that we're sizing this well so that we're not spending more money than what we should to meet the demand. So during that time, we determined that there were some alternatives to the DDI, but there's going to be pros and cons to those. But we're still in that modeling effort right now. So eventually here, and I would anticipate within probably the next 9 months, one of these future community meetings, we'll be able to share that out and say, here's what we came up with, here's some alternatives to that configuration, knowing that the construction would be in the future. On one of the previous slides, the time frame said TBD, to be determined. So if you're not going to ask me now, you're going to ask me later. Jason, what does that mean? What is your estimate for when that would be built? I can tell you that it's probably not in the 5-year window, and it's going to be more like in the 10-year window. A lot of that's going to be dictated based on the rate of deterioration that those bridges at the interchange experience. There's one poor bridge, and there's a lot of fair condition bridges, but they're soon to be poor in the next handful of years. So that's the challenge that we face at MDOT, is what do we do in the meantime before we have a full wholesale replacement. So as far as what's next, obviously continued community engagement. We'll be having a series of these community meetings pretty much to the end of the project. I mentioned earlier about FHWA approval, so that's something that we are working on getting here through the winter on that more phased approach. Part of the concern that Federal Highways had was what do you do with that traffic coming southbound that's going 70 plus miles per hour, and they come into an at-grade street level boulevard. So we are going through that analysis to determine what are all the bells and whistles that we need to put into this to start slowing people down. I'm a firm believer that people drive what they're comfortable driving. There's a reason why I-75 in a rural area feels comfortable to go 75, maybe 80 miles per hour. I'm not advocating that, I'm just saying. So if people are going that speed, it's because it's very wide open, right? Wide lanes, wide shoulders, the tree line is far, and you can see everything in your periphery, right? But when you're in a more urban area, you don't shouldn't feel comfortable driving 70 miles per hour through this, right? So in order to do that, we have to introduce some geometry to the southbound road. We have to put in different kind of pavement markings. The lane widths will be, instead of 12 foot, they'll be 11 foot. Obviously a lot of flashing signs and lights and all that, right? But still, the geometry has to change in order for people to feel uncomfortable driving 70 miles per hour so that it's not a safety risk. So that's part of the FHWA approval, is going through that legwork and analysis. And then obviously completing the framework. So that's something that we are kicking off here within the next month, is working through the framework for this project, the aesthetic design guidelines, the zoning and land use, and then also the community enhancements that we talked about earlier. And then finishing design and starting construction. So, as far as community meetings go, I've been looking at this as like a trifecta or a trilogy of community meetings. So obviously November, that's where we're at right now. The next one that we are planning would be just, I don't know whether it's here or not, but it'll be this type of setting in March. And at that March meeting, the intent is to say, okay, here's the things that we heard. Here's the things that we can do. What are some things that we're missing? Do we have this right? Okay, so it's a little bit of a check-in from a design standpoint. And then there'll be more information as far as community enhancements and that sort of thing, because we haven't gotten into that at all tonight, but we will at that meeting. And then that third meeting, June, again, hopefully completing more of that framework fully, and then as far as the design goes, okay, federal highway approval or whatnot, here's the direction that we think we're going to be heading. So that's the plan as far as community meetings go. And now we'll turn it over to questions. So just real quick, if you have a question, we're going to ask you to come up to the podium, again, because we are live streaming. And if you could possibly keep it to 60 seconds or less in your question, just because it's more respectful for your neighbor who may have a question as well. So, all right, thank you.
If you do have a question, yeah, you want to just sign up at the podium here. It's just your mic. It's just for the sake of the live stream, so that those folks online can see you. So. More questions?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Terry. In the plan we were looking at before, there was going to be greater connectivity for the service drives, thinking about like the northeast side of the interchange going over to, or I'm sorry, the southeast going over to the northwest. But it looks like that service drive work is postponed to maybe that third phase, and we're not going to get it?
Okay. Sorry, everybody. To answer your question, that's correct. So that would be a future phase when the interchange and the street network around the Eastern Market area would get built. Can you pass me that? Bring up the thing. I'll just put it up there for reference.
Good evening. My name is Pete, and this is a comment. I've been coming to these meetings, and years back, there was a program called Saturday Night Live. It's still on, but years back, there was a guy named Chevy Chase on that program, if you people my age remember. And he had a skit, and the beginning of his skit, he said, "Hi, I'm Chevy Chase, and you're not." It was a little on the nose, I always thought, if you remember that. And in some of the meetings I've come to over the years here for this and for some other MDOT meetings, and I mean this with great love, I kind of got the impression from people from MDOT that they were saying, hi, I'm MDOT, and you're not. We're not. But the reality is, we are MDOT. We, the people, are MDOT. And so I've talked to some of you folks from MDOT here this morning. And again, I mean that with great love, but there was a bit of arrogance, I think, early on. I don't sense that arrogance now. I'm not quite sure why, but good for you all. And so this plan that you have now, and talking to some folks, seems really good. You've kind of bit off of something we can all chew on, and that's great. And it sounds like a good step, and it sounds like you're going to do more community engagement, and that's even better. And obviously, being there was a pause, y'all did listen, and so good for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Lester Jordan. My question is that in the March meeting, will there be any time or effort from the community to add to the design portion of this project?
To do what? I'm sorry, to add to?
Yeah, will we have be able to have an effective input into the design element of this project at the March meeting?
Yes, answer is yes. At this meeting as well. So we do have roll plots in the back, because I know it's hard to see on the screen, but on the roll plots you can see a little more detail into like where the turn lanes are and how many lanes, etc. So I invite everybody to not only look at the boards and ask questions, but take a look at the roll plots. You'll be able to get a better view on all of that versus, like I said, the screen.
So real quick, I just want to point out Dan Beard. Oh, Dan Beard, if you can raise your hand. Right next to him are the roll plots Jason's describing. That's where we can, and he'll take your input on the design as well. And then Evan Forgas, if you can raise your hand. Evan's got a couple monitors there. One shows a video, kind of a flyover and a walkthrough of the project, and then he's actually got a model 3D visualization of what the project is going to look like in this next phase with the boulevard only, and he can kind of fly in and out of what that's going to look like. And we're happy to hear your feedback on the project.
Thank you for your
And
answer.
the other thing that I would remind folks of is, in addition to just the road design, there will be opportunity to also share what you would like to see in terms of the overall aesthetics of the place, what each area should look and feel like, not just with the roadway, community enhancements that go beyond the road. So if you want to see housing in a certain place, if you want to see historical murals or installations in a certain place, those are the kind of things that have been recommended in the past that we're hoping to have codified in the framework in a real meaningful way, so that the philanthropic partners, those economic development partners can see what the community wants to see in the community and be able to respond to that with some effective programming, some project opportunities, or some funding opportunities to say, yes, we'd like to help you build these things. Because we know that it's going to take more than just MDOT to really provide the vision that we want to see with the project. It won't just be a road. We don't want it to just be a road. We want it to be more than a road. So it'll be time at the next community meeting and other ways that we'll solicit feedback from stakeholders in addition to what's already been provided. So really it's going to be looking at all the things that have been provided to date in terms of input and saying, yep, that's what we want to see. Yes, we want to make that a short-term goal, and that's maybe a longer-term goal, but that's what we hope to achieve over this 6-month period, is really being able to put those actionable items into a very digestible form so that everybody sees it and we can track against it and make sure that we're doing the things that the community wants to see in the project area outside of just the road.
I really thank you for that. That's kind of more to the point of what my question was in that aspect of it, and I thank you for it. Thank you all.
I just wanted to Oh, okay. I just wanted to add a little bit to how you can leave your feedback on the design portion of the project. In those places in the back where Dave pointed out, there's also sticky notes. So if there's like a specific area, please write your comment on that sticky note. And also please see the young ladies in the back if you would like to get on our subscriber list. Because, during the presentation, I see a lot of people taking pictures of the boards. We're going to post those online. So once we get them online tomorrow, we can send like a thank you for coming email out with that link so that you can see those. So if you're not on the subscriber list, if you see the young ladies in the table back there, they can sign you up.
Hello everyone, my name is Thales. My question is about the risk of the federal administration clawing back money assigned to this project, given the current administration hostility to freeway removal projects. Is there any risk of that happening? And if they claw back the money, then is the project dead, or do we have other sources of money to complete at least the phase 1 and 2 of the project?
Are you referring to the grant, the federal grant?
Yeah.
Okay. So with federal grants, anytime there's a change to the project, and that's scope, that's schedule, things like that, the grant gets reassessed. Now, they don't just reassess the component that's changing, so in this case, scope and amount of money that would be needed, but they're gonna look at the entire grant. So it will go back to Washington, D.C. for them to reassess the grant.
Do we have a plan B in case they reassess negatively?
We do have a plan B. With this project, it was a combination of federal grant money and Rebuilding Michigan program, or bond funds, during the Governor Whitmer bond program. So the bond funds would kind of hopefully pick up that heavy lift of making up the difference. I will say, so the grant is, in its fullest, about $104 million, but the grant can only be used for up to 60% of the project costs. So the grant amount will go down depending on, where we land on for this phased approach, assuming it moves forward. But there, like I said, it's still a combination of grant money and bond money.
Should we maybe clarify as well that the FHWA approval that Jason noted earlier that's still needed for the project to move forward, or the next phase, is the key there is FHWA still needs to approve the traffic and safety aspects that we're working through right now. So that's a separate approval from the grant.
Good evening. My name is Beverly Kendall Walker, and I was born in Black Bottom on Mullet Street. This whole project really has evolved into something that originally was supposed to have been about connecting people to the riverfront. It wasn't anything about reconnecting the community to, or the wrongs that were done to the community that was there under the Urban Renewal Project. Now its evolution is the transition. No mention of reconnecting, because now you're dealing with a different, fickle federal administration. So those dollars that you had under the Biden administration have been or will be probably yanked because of the current administration has some issues about diversity and those type of things. So we're gonna base a pie-in-the-sky plan based on a fickle federal administration, whether or not we're gonna get the dollars, because MDOT don't have it, the city of Detroit don't have it. This is a backwards plan. This is a motor city. This is not about a biking, walking, whatever. That is an expressway that people use to get in and out of their homes, in and out of casinos, the stadiums, all those activities. So have you all actually driven or been down there during a time when it was necessary for people to be out on the expressway going in and out of this community? Have you? Probably not, because you will see a lot of people using and glad to have an expressway system that they can connect so they can get in and out of where they're trying to go to. So you guys up there, y'all being paid, but You got people that's numb because they don't even know which way to go. But if we're depending on the federal administration, we're not going to get those dollars to complete this grandiose project that's going to cost billions of dollars and is going to impact and disenfranchise the community for years. For what? Why? We need a freeway system that works. Fix the bridges, fix the road, leave it like it is. The sewer part is a given. You might need to have a combined sewer system. But right now, that system does not flood. I-375, I've never known it to flood. So whatever they did underground works. But if you guys want to have a combined sewer, y'all go ahead with that part of it. But the rest of it, leave it as a freeway because this is the Motor City. We need an expressway system that connects to where you're trying to get to and where you're trying to get back home. Period. Period. So reconnecting people who used to live there, it's not working. It's not working. We have not been really included in the plans. So now y'all gonna backtrack and say, oh, we want to include the community. No, you haven't. You haven't listened to us. You really haven't. We go through all of these things, stickies and all that stuff. It's not working. It's not working. So I'm hopeful that this fickle administration won't give us the money to do it because I don't think it should be done.
Good evening. My name is Neil McCachran. I live in Lafayette Park. And as it stands now, and for the last, 40 years, it's a 10-minute drive from my house and from our neighborhood to get to the medical center. And my concern is what's going to happen during the construction phase and in the final phase to make an expedient route to get from the Lower East Side to the Detroit Medical Center. Has that been well thought out? And if so, has it been shared with the ambulance companies and the medical center to get input for an effective, speedy way to get there in an emergency?
So as far as the maintaining traffic during construction, we've looked at concepts of it, but until we're into the design, we can't give a lot of detail on it because we just don't have it. But I can tell you that during the time that we're filling in the depressed part of the freeway, traffic would be utilizing the Lafayette ramp southbound and the ramp at the north end of northbound Chrysler Drive to re-access the freeway. And all traffic would be on those service drives during construction. Lafayette Bridge will always, that crossing over 375 will always be maintained. That's going to be open as well as Jefferson. As far as do you want to speak to the modeling effort on the boulevard with the hospital, like the times that you guys are looking at to get to the hospital?
Yeah, we can speak to that a little bit. So yeah, we have actually done modeling, looking actually at the larger project in terms of what those routes look like. But we continue to, actually we do have regular meetings that we have had with first responders and will continue to as we move that design forward. So some of it gets into not only their routing, but also how they stage their vehicles and how they're communicating and coordinating. So that is something that we'll continue to work with them to make sure that they do have adequate times and resources for that area. It is only one corridor within the entire network, so there are other routes. St. Aubin would be a primary alternative route when we're working in the Boulevard area that can also be used to access the hospital.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Shaquila, and I hope you can hear me. My question is about the sewer part of this project. It's pretty new from all the other meetings that we had before. So could you go back to those slides and walk us through what the current condition is of the sewage and why we are planning a new sewer system? And could you also explain how the waste is going, because to me, from what I've heard, it sounds like something connected to the Detroit River. And I also would like to ask if you connected with the Friends of the Detroit River about this plan on how that would impact their work with keeping the river clean.
So, are we back at the slide?
Yeah.
Okay. Generally, the way it works today is that there's storm sewer water that feeds into the combined sewer system. And it's a combined overflow. And so what that means is when the storms come and they're intense enough, the stormwater overflows into the sanitary system or the combined system. And so when that happens, what's supposed to go to the wastewater treatment plant ends up going to the river. And the intent we have is to completely separate it. So when there's stormwater entering into MDOT's storm system and DWSD's storm system, that it gets treated with a certain type of inlet before it goes straight to the river. So it's a much cleaner situation for the stormwater that goes into the river. And like Jason said earlier, it's something that takes pressure off of the sanitary sewer system, so all the wastewater that goes to the treatment plant, it's not quite as intense. And when there's a storm, it won't affect the wastewater treatment plant like it does today.
So this diagram that you have right now, are you saying that there's currently sewage water going like to the river?
Yes,
now?
at times. This is kind of an antiquated system, but yeah, this is the way they were designed and built in the early 20th century. And that legacy system exists today, and so a lot of the systems around the country are combined sewer systems. And so during heavy storm events where we get a lot of storm water, the sanitary or the combined system gets overwhelmed, and the overflow that's supposed to go to the wastewater treatment plant, some of that overflows into the river. And it's not just the Detroit River, it's a lot of, like I said, it's a system that's commonly used throughout the country. And so we're trying to fix that.
Okay, so this is an improvement for the current flow of sewage going to the river, and your plan is to improve that system?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Jenkins. My office building is on Jefferson, 985 East Jefferson. I'm 20 feet from 375. 20 steps from 375. And my concern, first of all, and I ask you this, why are we doing this? What's the purpose?
So there's a few things, but it is an infrastructure project. So pavement condition, specifically bridge condition, and safety considerations for the current geometry.
I heard that before, but you're spending $20 million. $520 million to fix bridges. You agree with me?
No.
I'm a construction, that's why I know, okay? I own Jenkins Construction, okay?
Yep.
Well, 520, you can do it a lot less than for those bridges. So it's not about the bridges to me. It's about y'all want to do this, okay? And I have not been cleared because my issue is like the traffic flow. You mentioned the traffic flow. People coming downtown want to come to the expressway because, like the lady said, we get here and we get back. I got people that work for me. It's going to slow down. You agree with me? It's going to slow down? Get to Jefferson?
It'll be different than the current freeway.
I didn't say different. I said it's going to slow down.
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to cost me then, okay? Because my guys go back and forth to jobs, it's going to cost me, okay? I just make sure you know. And who's the architect for this job?
I'm sorry?
Who's the architect? I know all the architect. Who's the architect?
So this is a progressive design build. So with the contractor, the designer is AECom.
You talking about who?
AECom.
Dan's excavating? Dan's part
Well,
of this?
yeah, the designer is.
Yeah, I know
AECom.
everybody. That's why I said I asked you that question, okay?
With Dan.
So it's a design build project.
Correct.
Well, how's the local going to be participating in the project, okay?
So We have small business cutouts for the construction that Dan's Excavating has been working through with local contractors. I don't have a lot of details on it, but we can get some more and report that at the next meeting.
Let me speak to him, because I know a lot of guys who want to participate here, because this is a local job, okay?
Yeah.
And I know who Dan's is, okay? You know, I've dealt with them before, okay? You know, I'm not saying they're good people, okay? I'm not saying taking anything away from them. But my issue is y'all doing this because somebody wanted to do this, because as far as the purpose of it or the need of it, I don't see it a need other than somebody wanting to do something different than with the traffic flow through the 375 expressway, okay? And I just want to make sure you have participation from the community, because here's another question I have. I've asked that question several times. Is the value of my property going up or down?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Yeah, absolutely, because I've asked you that before and you didn't have an answer.
I don't have an answer. So the answer I gave you was that it's hard to believe it would go down after a project with a $120 million investment, but I don't have any way of giving you a figure like that, Jim.
Well, here's the thing that I don't know. I'm on the board. As a matter of fact, Errol Larson's no, he was there yesterday. Okay, he's gone. Okay. We voted yesterday to do the riverfront. It's going to be a riverfront like no other in the country. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about in the state. I'm talking about no other in the country, and it's coming. Okay. And so my whole concern right now is making sure that your flow is understanding what they're doing at the river. Okay. And I can share some things I got here with you about what they're doing at the river right now. Okay, I can share you some photos and stuff like that. And again, make sure that locals are participating in the project, because there's people that's local could do some trucking for Dan's, or some other people they can do some other things for Dan's Excavating, okay, or whoever. And yes, my time is up. Okay, well, okay, you tell me, because I got some other things, but I'll let it go, okay?
Jim, if I can speak to that riverfront connection, that is one of the primary drivers of the project. Is right now, you come down the freeway, you hit that West Jefferson curve. It's a dangerous curve, and comes up in the Jefferson and pushes you to the west downtown. Is that we can normalize that grid and have a normal intersection, and you can get right down to the riverfront. And then with that, we can also provide the connections for pedestrians and non-motorized to come up and use the corridor and access the downtown and all the great businesses and all the great residential areas to the east. So that is a big driver, is that strong riverfront connection.
Let me tell you, I realized yesterday that flow may have something to do with the East River front. So I was part of the process yesterday, trying to understand that, and I got many things here that I can probably talk to you, because she said my time is up. Okay. So, huh? No, I'm gonna go, because we're gonna talk to them. I'm gonna talk to them one-on-one. Okay. Yeah, okay. So, and you also told me, I quoted you. You said this is gonna be more than just a road. Did you say that?
I did.
Okay, so we're gonna watch you on that, okay? All right, thank you.
All right.
Eric Larson had to step out. I'm James Fiddler, also with the Downtown Detroit Partnership. One of the reasons why the Downtown Detroit Partnership wanted to get re-engaged with this project was to be able to better coordinate this road project with downtown development, with downtown business. And so as we've been engaging with MDOT and the City of Detroit on this, we've wanted to ensure that projects like the Renaissance Center and the redevelopment of the Renaissance Center are fully coordinated with major infrastructure projects like that. And that's going to continue to be a role the Downtown Detroit Partnership plays over the course of the project, is to engage with MDOT and the City of Detroit to ensure that it is truly reconnecting these projects and not creating separation, not hindering access to these projects. So it's a high priority for us as an organization to make sure that MDOT gets this right. And we're going to be there to represent business, to represent residents as part of that process.
Hi, my name's Gabriel. I'm over on the east side in Island View. So I have a question related to the Phase 2 bridge portion over Gratiot, specifically over the DeQuinder Cut. Will there be changes made to it, understanding that right now it kind of feels like an industrial park equivalent of a bridge, rather than something that captures the rest of Gratiot into downtown area? So currently, if you were to walk, say, from Island View neighborhood down Verner's, you get to Gratiot, and you kind of feel like you're more of an industrial park than you are in a downtown area. So whenever I take family anywhere, go someplace, you kind of feel like you're not going to Eastern Market. It just kind of blocks you off in your mind, separates you from the rest of downtown. I've had people ask me where to park for a Tigers game. I say go park near Eastern Market, and they kind of almost mentally block the connection between the park to Eastern Market based on just that bridge area. I know DeSales Park will be coming through with the St. Joseph's Shrine there at the corner. I guess, is there an idea to better design the bridge that goes over the DeQuinder Cut and kind of make that feel more of a connection to the rest of the city?
Yeah, so that bridge was built back in the late 20s, and it was a railroad structure. And so this proposed bridge will look much different than the existing. We are basically getting ready to authorize the beginning design piece for the bridge. Like I said, that's almost like a standalone one-off location, so it's going to be disconnected from the boulevard construction. But yeah, part of that is basically making sure that whatever we build there, that with the future plan for Gratiot, that whatever we build with Gratiot, we're not doing any rework with the bridge deck or the approaches. Does that answer your question?
A little bit, just more of the design elements that are going to be incorporated into it, knowing that it's currently kind of like a severance away from the rest of the downtown. Yeah, with the future community meetings, we can show more what that design could look like the design possibilities. Okay. So, yep. Thank you.
Yeah, we can look at that. It also will have a widened sidewalk on the south side, ultimately. In the overall project, an extension of the cycle track from the DeQuinder Cut that would connect into the Gratiot connector corridor. So there will also be some additional space in there. Kind of in the interim, it'll be a more comfortable pedestrian experience on the south side of the structure because you'll have a substantially wider sidewalk.
Okay, and with that, I think we're going to break can you talk to them one-on-one about it, you think? After Mr. Jenkins' question, we'll cut Q&A. The meeting is not over. You'll have time to talk to the project team members one-on-one, look at some of those project boards, leave some sticky notes, and give us your input.
I just want to make sure there's a bar schedule. Have you got a bar schedule yet for the project?
Oh, what?
A bar schedule.
You mean like reinforcement steel?
No, a schedule for the project. Okay.
A bar chart, like a
bar chart showing the schedule. Because that would tell the story about when even if it was target times, not just, because sometimes you got to have a target and make sure Dan excavating know where he got to be about a certain time, okay?
Right.
You agree with me on that?
Of course.
Okay, so I haven't seen that, okay?
So right now, there's a very kind of higher level schedule on one of these boards back here. And then as we get
it should be on display for everybody to see as well, okay?
Right, understood. Yeah, there's a board back here that shows what we have now, and then as we get into design, and we know more of the details about how the design and construction is going to unfold, there will be a lot more detail in those schedules.
Is somebody from Dan's Excavating here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Steve in the back.
Steve, raise your hand real high. There's Steve.
Okay, I know him. Okay, so we'll discuss it. Okay, thank you. I mean, we need to have a bar. That way we have it. Even if you don't have it, have a target. That way you put people in a position of here's what we got to aim for. Okay, yep. And normally in the construction that's what we do. Okay, yep. Thank you.
Thank you to those online. If you have a question, please submit it on the comment form that should be listed right next to the video. For those who are looking online, we are now going to close the live stream. We really appreciate you tuning in. For those in the room, please feel free to take a closer look at all of the boards, the roll plot mat, the 3D visual back there, the schedule over there too, and let us know any feedback you have. Thank you.